we're now post-banning the One Piece TCG, and we've had enough time to see where the metagame settles. And for us Nami players, I think we can all universally agree that it's not a great time. East and West, it is a tough time in terms of aggressive strategies, decks that just go down into the ground really fast, a lot of purple everywhere. In general, it's not a good time to be a mill main. And I wanted to go through that metagame really quickly in a video and just see if there is anything we can do about it. What are the leaders we're looking out for? And what are the things that we want to think about in terms of deck construction? What are maybe some cards we want to leave behind, in my opinion, going into this metagame? Now, obviously, this is subject to your own local interpretation. So for example, if you have a locals that is completely different and you're more so in that type of scene where it's more casual, I think I fit into that. Even though I play sim ranked, a lot of people don't consider sim ranked to be super high up there, but like more than a local. So again, I'm not going to regionals and nats all the time. That metagame is completely different. If you are as a Nami main, I mean, good luck to that one. But regardless, I think there is still a world for a mill main if we just think a little bit enough here. So firstly, I'm gonna go into Eggman's kind of OP10 breakdown here. And if we look at the One Piece TCG sim rankings as of May 27th, the breakdown isn't so great. So top 10 decks in the metagame right now. I mean, first of all, we see 2 red decks. Now, Shanks is like asterisk because it really depends on the type of deck list that Shanks is on right now. I believe it tends to be more on the rush side of things. Control Shanks doesn't seem to be that far up there, alongside maybe something like Red Zoro. If Red Zoro's at the top of the metagame and it's sporting like a near 54% win rate, Nami's gonna have a real hard time. Even up against something like Shanks, even if it's a more aggressive version, that's a deck list that if it was at the top, you could adapt by playing more Gravity Blades. It's a deck that can be a little weak to that in terms of how slow it attacks you. But then on top of that, near 53% win rate, we have kind of Purple Luffy, we have Bonnie up next, Blackbeard, and Doflamingo still honestly supporting like a 55% win rate, close to that on sim ranked. But to be fair, that the match amount is a little bit lower. So if you look at Blackbeard, the sample size is huge, right? 15k matches, whereas Doflamingo only has like 3. And then even the Shanks players, they have almost 20k matches available in that sample size. So I almost just trust like top 5, that's it. Everything below that, just not enough of a sample size in terms of people playing, just pure matches and everything. Past that, we have Lim, which is kind of lit, I'm not gonna lie. Kind of cool to see a leader like that. And then we have the Smoker deck, and then Red Purple Luffy, and then we have the Kid deck as well. So even if you look at the spread, like generally speaking, outside of even Blackbeard, like yeah, it's like technically a positive matchup for Nami, but I would say it's closer to 50-50, and like pilot skill on the Blackbeard side can really shift that to the negative zone for Nami. So you have to be careful with something like that. And even the rest of the matchups here, like I don't know if I would consider any of these matchups positive for Nami. Like it really depends on how Bonnie is built. If you start seeing like 2 to 3 like 9-cost Zoros, then it's like sub 50. If the decks aren't playing any Zoros, then I think it's a positive matchup. But the rest of them, I mean, up against something like Zoro and even Purple Luffy, even if 4 out of 5 of your life triggers are draw 2s, you can really struggle against deck lists like that. So all is to say, the matchups tend to be really aggressive. The purple decks tend to be a little bit tough because not only are they aggressive, but they're aggressive tall, whereas the red decks are aggressive wide in terms of like the the characters that they're putting in front of you. So it can be kind of tough to counter out on both fronts. Whereas against the red decks, if you have some white snakes early, then you might be able to get there, but then you're using up all your go wide and not able to affect the rest of the board. And even white snake is tough because Zoro can put things generally, especially in the mid game, at kind of 6k, which immediately just reduces the value of a lot of these characters significantly. And especially in purple, you're easily getting up to like 9k swings in the mid game and early late. So it tends to be tough to even just throw out a mellow plus being forced to counter out with the 1k or just a white snake. It can be tough to use on multiple parts of your resources just to be able to counter out of a board like that. So in general, what we're looking at in OP10 is not great. Now, part of what spurred this video for me was actually this metagame breakdown for OP11. Now, I have very limited experience in this. Generally, from what I've seen, is that blue purple Luffy and green purple Luffy, just not great matchups at all. Not great matchups at all for Nami. And if oh my god, if the Revolutionary Army on top of that is going to be making a comeback, Red, Zoro, Blackbeard, again, I would consider closer to a 50-50 matchup where pilot skill on the Blackbeard side can really push it to be a lot better. It's just really tough to make anything work in a metagame as crazy as this. For somehow Nami deck coming out at 2 copies here, this is just a completely lethal metagame. And what this tells me, honestly, is with aggression, we generally have to look to events or plays that just cost as least dawn as possible or need to be optimized for removal. Now, that doesn't mean we're playing Red Rocks, and that honestly probably doesn't mean that we're playing Gravity Blades either, because Gravity Blade costing 7 just doesn't seem like a good value proposition against something like a Luffy based strategy. Like Straw Hat Pirates tend to honestly be actually pretty high costed, and especially when they have purple behind them, when they're ramping out, they tend to just go large, and especially against the red decks, as I just mentioned, it tends to be a little too late. So what that means for me is, honestly, we've been losing Gloriosa for a hot minute. A lot of decks aren't playing Gloriosa anymore. They are playing Margaret still, because the Budo Margaret plan protecting 1-cost Nami seems to be pretty solid. Take it from me, it is. But it kind of just means Snake Dance, to me, doesn't have that value it needs. The trigger is honestly great too, but a lot of these decks are pretty good at like clearing out your board and just kind of getting rid of things. So a lot of times you don't even have something you want to return. If you're playing blockers heavy, you don't even want to return a blocker. Heck, you don't want to return a 1-cost Nami. You will if you have to, because then it can turn the Snake Dance into like a 5k counter. But regardless, Snake Dance just feels like more and more a card that just needs to go. You can't even search for it. It's a card that just costs way too much. Yes, it's a 2-Dawn 4k counter, but I honestly just feel like we should just be playing the 2k counter that counters 4k, the 2-cost counter that counters 4k, and then bottom decks a 1-cost. Like, we can play that event, because honestly, at least it just interacts with the opposing board in some way. So if you're dealing with aggressive threats, you can bottom deck a searcher or something like that. So even if they have a searcher that they're saving, so against green, you might be having a searcher that they don't tap down. Maybe it's something against Blackbeard, like the Lafitte. They don't tap it down on the turn. They just play for the last Dawn. And like, let's say they attack first, so they just attack weird in general. They haven't used it yet. You can bottom deck it with something like that. So I just feel like Snake Dance isn't really the call right now. What I do think actually could potentially be really good right now is Overheat. Now, this is a card that's been back and forth for a lot of people. In the days where it did see some level of play, and I will say some Nami players are still championing this, there is a 7 Warlords type build that plays like Croc and everything like that. Now, I don't think we need to be playing Croc. I never was a fan of Croc. I think there was a world where 7-cost Crocodile, where if you attach a Dawn to it, you reduce the cost of your events by 1. I think there was a world where it worked, but then the problem is black removal and black decks, again, just got like way too good. And so removal was king. Now, to be fair, some of that is gone now, but that doesn't mean that the other decks like purple and stuff like that aren't better. And to be fair, red just might be faster. Like, are you going to be tapping out for 7 for Crocodile, attaching a Dawn and making your 1-cost event 0? I'm not sure if that's really going to help, because honestly, for 7 Dawn, I'd rather just be playing Gravity Blade against the aggro deck. So I'm not sure if it's fast enough. But in that 7 Warlords build, you could be playing something like Overheat, which is 2-cost for a 4k counter, but then also return up to 1 active character with the cost of 3 or less to its owner's hand, which is really powerful. So not only are you going to be able to return, of course, if you in a niche world, if you want to return your Margaret to redraw, if you want to return your Kaya, that's a possibility too. But generally, 3 cost or less is pretty good. In a world where Zoro's really good, you can bounce a bunch of their other characters that they haven't used up yet. Maybe they cheated something out and you just bounce it back to their hand. Maybe they go into attack with something and, you know, they play 3-cost Zoro and you bounce something else back to their hand. So depending on how they kind of play it out, Overheat can be really good. And then you could be playing something like the 1-cost like 7 Warlord Searcher that has a Navy type. One cost, I believe it was look at the top 5, look for a 7 warlords type. There are 7 warlords cards in here that are possible, and there was like a fun little like meme deck where that card had navy type, so you played Tashigi as a 1-cost searcher. Tashigi look for your gravity blade and your white snake, but also for that 7 warlord searcher. Then you play the 7 warlord searcher, which can look for something like overheat. It can look for another, like it can just look for a bunch of things. Regardless, I think overheat might be seeing a comeback, or I think it should. And I think like next week or in the coming days, I do want to test overheat over snake dance and see how that can help, because even the trigger return up to 1 character with the cost of 4 less to its owner's hand, that doesn't have the active restriction. It can bounce your stuff, it can bounce your opponent's stuff, and having that additional cost is really powerful. I think overheat is super balanced in the sense that if overheat was able to bounce 4 cost, this would probably still be a staple over snake dance, even with the package of Gloriosa and the Kuja Pirates. Once Gloriosa left, I feel like overheat would have just came back if it grabbed 4 cost on its front side. Even if it was just the active restriction, you were able to remove blockers. Like in the black era, overheat would have just been so good. So in general, I think a card like this is something that the Nami players need to adapt with. And I'm not sure. I don't know if there really is a way to add enough cards into the deck to really make these matchups work. I think the main deck is really tight in general, and there's very few cards that can go. I think the characters have a lot more flexibility now. Like maybe Boodle's not the thing anymore. Maybe Margaret's not the thing anymore, because heck, even in hand, it's not a counter. And maybe Snake Dance needs to go and get replaced by Overheat. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I just want to get my thoughts out there. It is a bit of a crazy time when it comes to being a Nami player, but maybe I'm just overreacting and I'm being a little too quick to pull the trigger on making some changes on the Nami decks. Let me know what you think, and let me know how your experience has been playing Nami in the OP10 metagame. And if y'all have been playing in OP11 as well, let me know your thoughts. I definitely need to get more practice into that metagame. I just haven't because of like the recent bans, and then now I've been working on the 4 Emperor stuff. So definitely want to get into that metagame. How do y'all feel about the new Luffy decks and those matchups in general?